Good evening, Gills fans. Welcome back to another episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It is middle of the week again. We are recording on a Tuesday, and this will be seen live on the channel on a Wednesday. We look ahead to another big game this weekend. It's Gillingham versus Salford City in ME7 at the Priestfield Stadium. And of course, there wasn't going to be any other guest to come and talk to me about this game. It is Danny Shepherd, friend of the channel, returning guest, probably deserves a match ball of some description now. He does the one up front Salford City. Was a pod, is more now a blog. But either way, the content is absolutely superb. So go and follow Danny on Twitter, X, whatever it's called now. I'll put his details in the description as I always do at the bottom of this video. Danny, welcome back. Hope you're well.
I am, and it's one of my highlights of the year. Sometimes I get on twice, sometimes I just get on once for the preview. It depends what you need. So yeah, I'm here if you need me anytime.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure. Never a chore. And as I said, there was a reason I mentioned that we are recording on a Tuesday night and not a Wednesday when you will be watching this, because literally as we press record, Gillingham have tweeted via their social media platforms that a appeal against Ramo Hutton's dismissal at Grimsby on Saturday afternoon has, somewhat unsurprisingly, been successful. So he will be available. But anyway, I go off on a tangent. Looking at recent form, Danny, it's fair to say, and we'll talk about the games in particular in a minute, that despite a little bit of inconsistency from both clubs over the last six, it's 9 points from 12 for Salford, 3 wins, 3 defeats. So
Yeah.
feast or famine in that sense. Gills, it's 7 points from 18, 2 wins, a draw, and 3 defeats as well. But taking the season as a whole so far, both teams have had very encouraging starts, haven't they?
I mean, if I can stick with my specialist subject, I will.
Of course you can.
Because you know me. I pay attention, and I always know that you're very low scoring and very good defensively. That's basically the limit of my knowledge of Gillingham. So
Fair enough. We'll
with,
rephrase it
with
then. Despite a little bit of inconsistency over the last six, Salford City have had a very good start to the season, haven't they?
yeah, I'm getting chippy now. Sorry, Matt. No, with us, it's. Yeah, it's encouraging to the extent that even the games that we're not winning, we have periods that we are looking really quite good in. And I just think the money that we're throwing out there, I'm sure we'll be talking about some of that later on, that you can't do that unless you're buying absolute dross without building a decent team, a strong team, I think, that's going to be able to compete in this season. You know, Daniel Udo, 325 grand for a striker. That is silly money for Salford. That when was the last time they ever paid? I don't remember them announcing a fee for a player in the time I followed them in the EFL. I genuinely do not. So 325 on one guy, then you start to bring in Michael Rose, big money or big wages from higher leagues. Ollie Turton, Matt Butcher, Kadeem Harris, etc. All these players, Jorge or George Grant. There's a lot of money being thrown at this. I say Jorge. I don't know if
We had a
any of the
Jorge a couple of years ago, to be fair, but he was genuinely Colombian, so he was probably slightly more Jorge
yeah,
than George might be a Jorge, and your Jorge is
that's
probably
it.
more of a George.
He needs to depol himself if he wants to be George in my book. So, but
Mind if he
yeah, I
smashes
think
in volleys every week like he did a few weeks ago, he can be whatever he likes, can't he?
yeah. I mean, it's. I just feel that this project is almost too expensive to fail. And when I see it click, it's great. I was really pleased with our last performance. We can talk about that individually later on, maybe. But compared to where we were when we were signing National League players as of the start of August, the start of maybe August, July,
hmm
I was really, really worried as to we were going to go straight through the bottom of this division. And that looks absolutely so far from reality now because we've supplemented the squad in everywhere. We've only got one place that we haven't got a backup, which is left centre back in our back three. Luke Garbutt is the only player who can play there. Seems a bit of a silly situation. Everywhere else, we've got two teams to cover everything. So encouraging, but as you said, before the win against Oldham, bit dire. You know, 3 in a row where we'd scored one goal against Bristol and then we'd been nilled twice, which was which was not great. So I'm never the most positive, but yeah, I do actually see that this team at some point has to actually find its feet.
Similar to us because obviously everyone knows it was all over social media. Gills, 21 games unbeaten, new club record, and all that type of thing, and it was
Mm.
rightly celebrated. But the club were very quick to say that you don't win trophies for going 21 games unbeaten, certainly across two separate seasons as well.
Yeah,
And then, of course, Harrogate come to town a few weeks ago and played party poopers to perfection. We had 19 shots, just wouldn't go in. If we'd won the
yeah,
game, I don't think anybody bats an eyelid. We had 30 shots against Cheltenham, had to rely on a 95th minute equaliser at the frame of the goal twice. The keeper made some good saves first half. So I think, similar to what you said, there's been a lot of encouragement in the performances in this little winless run that to me says we won't end up in a position like we did last year where we went 2 or 3 months without picking up a victory. But yeah, let's have a quick look at the recent form. In terms of Gills, it's 7 points from the last 18, like I've said. Then wins came against Notts County and Newport. And then it's been a solitary draw against Cheltenham in amongst three defeats to Harrogate, Emgate, Dons and Grimsby, which sees us slip to fifth in the table on 22 points from 13 games. Yeah, your little winless run was ended with a victory against Oldham this past weekend by a goal to nil. There was a trio of
yeah,
defeats before then, and after that, before that though, two good wins against Shrewsbury 3-1 and Swindon 3-2.
yeah.
Same amount of points, seventh on goal difference, goal scored, whatever they decide to decide it on first these days.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the Oldham game then. You said because obviously there'd been that little run of three on the bounce. How good was it? See, you get a win first and foremost. When you get to that point where you've not won in three, it's just about getting over the line, isn't it?
It was. I mean, I have my own opinions on things in terms of like I'll walk out of the stadium, maybe go straight into the bar at the club,
Hmm.
and have a certain opinion, and then start talking to people and think, oh, it's just me then. I'm not saying no one else thought we played very well. We deserved to win, but I was really, really pleased, and I was really, really proud of the way we played. Oldham fans. There's a lot of criticism of the referee, this, that, and the other, for not protecting their players. But the one thing I would say is it's a game where if Oldham would have got a goal, or if it would have been anything other than a win for us, absolute sacrilege. It would have been diabolical because they
Hmm.
just were not in that at all. I know we're at home and we're expected to dominate, even though we probably weren't the most confident team in the world because of the previous games. But I thought we were really, really good. I do think we maybe talk about later on about tactical things. I think Karl has dropped two players that were annoying the hell out of me.
Okay.
And unfortunately, two of those are actually two of the new signings. So they've not one of them in particular, Brandon Cooper, who I think came in from Leighton Orient.
Okay.
Good pedigree, seemed to hold his own at levels higher than League Two. Just come in. He's just looked shaky against everybody. He can't handle pace, and as a wide centre back, doesn't really work. Matt Butcher, in a team of like athletic gazelles who are running around the place and trying to muscle people off the ball, Matt
Hmm.
Butcher is like the slow coach. And I don't really understand how he fits in with the project. So both of those were actually dropped. I don't think either of them were injured for Saturday's game. Both of them out on the bench, and we brought in players who just were steady and helps the rest of our team get forward. So I'm really pleased that eventually, even though these are new signings that Carl's obviously helped identify along with the recruitment team, he's kind of swallowed his pride and said that at some point we have to turn this run around. And as soon as he got rid of what I would say performance-wise were the bad eggs, we looked a lot better.
And another of your good mates was on the bench, I noticed as well, Mr. Stockton, Mr. Marmite himself,
Oh yeah,
who, um, oh
nothing to
yeah,
say to be honest.
you've said it before, I think, on previous
Yeah,
chats that we've had. It's he's a funny character, um, and Kelly and Mai, who we spoke about throughout the summer. I've written notes here. We're just going off. We're doing this freestyle. I love it. It's
let's
absolutely
do it.
brilliant.
Let's do it.
Kelly and Mai, Haji Minoga were two that we spoke about throughout the summer because I messaged you on WhatsApp and I said, I'm finding you difficult to place this, that, and the other in a season
Yeah.
prediction because there was a lot of talk of, I think it was Minoga to Lincoln and Mai to Bolton was at one point looked almost as good as done. Um,
95%, I was told. Yeah.
and then both stayed, first and foremost.
Mhm.
And Mai's not been in the team as much as last season so far this campaign. But
Injury. It's
So it's been
purely
an
injury
injury.
based.
Okay.
It's not performance at all. No.
But he was back in the starting lineup at the weekend, playing in a slightly different role. Would I be fair to say that? I thought he was more of a left-sided midfielder, but he looks like if the graphics are correct on the app that I'm looking at, he started as part of a front three with Udo.
Right. Yeah, I would say it was a front three, to be honest. And whichever site you're looking at has been a lot more astute than a lot of them are, because a
They've
lot
got it. The
of
one I look at, they've got it as a 3-1-4-2. So they've got it as Turton, Oluwo, and Garbutt as your centre halves.
yeah.
Ashley as the sitter, the protector.
Okay.
And then from right to left, it's got a quartet of Minoga, Woodburn, Cisse, and Harris. And then it's got Mai and Udo further forward. But was there some fluidity to it so that maybe
Loads.
if Minoga could push on, then obviously Harris would drop in or tuck in, or you'd almost become like a 3-4-3.
Yeah. Let's give, I mean, let's give you an exclusive in terms of, like, for people who haven't read my blog, that when you mentioned the front three, I
Hmm.
would say it is, because there's always somebody joining that
Hmm.
two up front, and that is either Kadeem Harris on the left, or you've got Callum Cisse with a late run from midfield, or you've got Haji Minoga, who's going to be lined up with them from a goal kick. You will see this, I promise you,
Hmm.
against us. From a goal kick, he's our wide target man, the Christian Benteke on the touchline, that we do a long goal kick for a flick on out to the right wing back. So that three is made up of five interchangeable players. And Mai and Udo will stay there consistently in the front three, but the other element will chop and change.
Be
And it makes your
interchangeable, yeah.
marking assignments an absolute frigging nightmare. And that's where I think Karl has gone away from the static two to a movable five
Yeah, of course, and
who've split
obviously
into three.
apps can only line it up as it is when it
Yeah,
starts, can't they? So
that's
they
it.
can't have them moving around. So yeah, but I did think it would look that more like that. And even if you're under pressure, I can see someone like Minoga dropping back and becoming an orthodox right back to give you a back four, and then
Easy.
you have Ashley, Woodburn, and Cisse as a three in front, and then Harris, Udo, and Mai as a front three. So loads and loads of options there in terms of changing it without having to make substitutions, which is great. And I'm really intrigued to see how the battle is Saturday because all of our wingers are injured, Dan. We've got no Gareth
Oh,
McCleary,
okay.
no Johnny Smith, no Aaron Rowe, it looks like. So we're probably going to have to match up in terms of
Okay.
it'll be a 3-5 something, a variance. So yeah, really intriguing to see how that, because it looks like it'll be someone like Harris against Ramo Hutton now. That could be a good battle. It'll
He's
be
been our best player this season, Harris. I'll say that he came in. He's had a few seasons in Turkey apparently, which is probably not a great standard outside the teams that are in the Champions League. It's just
yeah.
it's the top league in Turkey, but the rest of it might be like the Scottish Premier. And then I think he was at Carlisle last season,
Hmm.
did quite well with them, and he's come in, and every single game he can go in. I think he prefers to come inside. I think he's better with his left foot for a right side for a better with his right foot for a left-sided player than
Hmm.
you'd imagine. And I think his goals and his shots seem to come from that area. So, yeah, he's very, very difficult to handle. And in Mai was out of this world against Oldham. He's just got the quickest feet. He got brought down for one penalty, and there were two others that could have been. But even as I'm not much of like a rose tinted type, so I think I can understand that another team not being given, but to even get in those positions three times in a game shows that
Hmm.
he's causing real damage. Is Kelly?
I think if you go back to his goal last season against us, was an example of, I think it was a quick 1-2 and then really good feet to shift it left to right and then bend
Yeah.
it in the far corner, if I remember, in that entertaining 2-all game last season. So yeah, loads of options. Um, Still freestyling. We've already mentioned Mar, we've mentioned Minoga.
Yeah.
Obviously, you sort of pinpointed them, identified them as two key players before the season had started in terms of they could probably have a quite a big differential in terms of where you may end up finishing because they were that good for you last season. How
Of
refreshing
course.
has it been though to see to see all the other players that step up and you've mentioned Kadeem Harris, who I've really liked the look of what I've seen so far this season.
Mm.
Callum Cisse, Oluwu, we've already mentioned at centre half, came in
Yeah.
from Barnet, I believe, he's had a really good
That's
start to
it.
the season, chipped in with a good couple of goals. Dan Udo, I didn't realise the fee. That's a huge signing, like you
In
say.
it just.
But he's repaying it already, isn't it? 3 goals, 4 assists, or something ridiculous in 7 games is one hell
He's
of a
already had a
return.
dry spell, believe it or not. I mean, if you could have a dry spell in like almost been here probably about a month, but I think he got 2 goals and 4 assists in the first handful of games, then did diddly squat for maybe 2 games, and then he got a rebound off a penalty on Saturday. But
Hmm.
I've I've actually put a bet on him. I won't talk about it, but I think there's very good odds for him to be in the top 4 goal scorers this season because he's dropping down a division.
Mhm.
He's not just a scorer; he's a creator, and there's a lot of good link-ups. Him and Kelly, him and Cisse. Cisse has now become a much more creative player than I imagined he would be because he can look a bit like Bambi on ice. You know, you see a player who's quite tall, quite thin, bit of a beanpole, but he's now starting to get use of his lower limbs far more and actually hitting the passes where it's supposed to be. So yeah, I think it will be. There's a lot of potential threats against you. I think coming this weekend, and the thing I'll just say, just going back to that formation, is that I don't particularly, Karl, I always say, I've never met him face to face, but Karl Robinson, our manager, not a big fan of his antics and his kind of screaming and shouting and fourth official baiting. Not really for me. But I think when he changed our formation late on I think it was a 2-0 loss against Chesterfield, when everything, the game had gone, he changed it to this formation I've already described to you. And he thought, that's actually showing. When Kelly and Mike came on, we went to that 3, the interchangeable 5, I said, where you're slipping people in forward. And I think for him to do that in a loss and still stick with it and use it again, and we won, I think that could be the curveball. Because when you change formation this division, I find it gives you a free swing for a few weeks because it seems that managers don't seem to catch on. They'll think, are they going to use the old formation? Are they going to use a new one? It bought us an almost 8-game unbeaten run when Karl first joined us in January 2024. So I do think having a surprise element like we've done could catch a few teams out. Hopefully, Gillingham. We'll see. No,
No,
not if they
hopefully
watch
not.
this anyway.
That brings me nicely on to my next question.
Yeah,
Karl Robinson, as you say, was appointed January 2024, 22 months
yeah.
in charge now. I remember we spoke, I think it was quite shortly after he'd been appointed, and you wasn't sure it was a rolling contract till the end of that 23-24 campaign. You
Yeah.
wasn't sure whether he was going to be there beyond the end of that season. Well, he's now done another full season. He's now starting this one. 41.1% win ratio. Very good at any level. Slightly higher than his career win ratio, I believe, of
All right.
40.9, if Wikipedia has not done me a dirty.
Good on you.
How much does Salford City look like a Karl Robinson side now? Because I know there was a lot of work to do and a lot of player churn that needed to be done when he first took over. Does it feel like you're watching a Karl Robinson team now, or is it a slightly different version of what we're used to seeing as Karl Robinson teams back in the days of MK Dons, Charlton, Oxford?
Question of the week. Absolute question of the year, I think that, because I think I'll answer it by just going to previous transfer windows and
Hmm.
looking at some of the, in my opinion, dross that we've brought in. I looked a lot of them as placeholders because until this new consortium took over, it's new in the sense that there's new money behind it, but Beckham and Neville are still fronting it. So whether that's massively public knowledge or not, I don't know. But they put a lot of money in, and that's why we've actually thrown a lot of the squad this season, especially towards the end of the transfer
Hmm.
window. So a lot of the buys that we had previous to, I would say, this July were make do and mend. He's out of contract, he's cheap, he can play a lot of positions. And it showed, I think. It really did
So it was
show.
almost
Even
like plasters over wounds, just as a
It
temporary
was, it was, it
stopgap.
was
Yep.
chewing gum and string. It really
Yep.
was, and I was never fooled by that. And now it feels like I think that I've said it to a few people. I think the dynamic has changed in terms of who needs who the most. When
Hmm.
Cal came in, his profile was bigger than us.
Yep.
It was bigger than a team about to be relegated into the National League, which was what Neil Wood was doing. That's
Hmm.
exactly where we were going until Cal came in. Cal's reputation and profile was higher than that. So he came in and we needed him like we needed oxygen. Absolutely, he was essential. And I'm not saying he played on that, but I think it gave him a lot of power and clout. I feel now that, as we've shown by backing him with, what do you want him for 300 grand? Have him, get him. Yeah, he's in contract. Don't matter. We'll just go and buy him. That's going to be noticed by the managerial community. I'm positive of that. That automatically puts Karl under pressure because this is now not a job that nobody wants. I think this is a job that people look at. I could do something at Salford. Good quality managers. So I think it impacts Karl in that sense. But in terms of is this the team that Karl has been trying to build? In the sense that it's full of pace, yes. Because I couldn't speak for his Oxford days. I can't speak for his MK Dons days. I knew of him, but I don't know what the profile of those teams was, apart from me
Okay.
like playing 4-3-3. I'm
Hmm.
sure you can probably tell me more of that than anyone. But ever since he's come in, even when he's been buying players who were make do amend, they were normally quite physical, quite strong, and quite fast. And that's what he's tried to do with us. And that's why I said I never understood the Matt Butcher signing, who's molasses slow. Don't get it. Really don't get that.
So many
So
analogies in this episode. It's great fun.
well, yeah, I can't help it. My wife is always telling me off for him because she says it's very confusing. But
Not
yeah,
at all.
I,
Not at all.
I think with Karl, I still don't think we're there. And according to him in his press conferences, he's saying he loves the pressure of having almost too many players. We're almost kind of like the Chelsea of the lower leagues. We're going to have to get a second changing room for them all to be, to get ready in soon, like Chelsea do, and
I'm sure
start
there's some
farming them on
fourth
loan
division
too.
Dutch side that you can start loaning
Yeah,
people to.
it causes friction, it causes pressure, and it needs a good man manager to do that.
Mhm.
But this is where I think things have changed: is that the club have said to Karl, "What do you want?" And they've got him it as far as they can. It's all here. I think we'll go again in January if we've got a
Mhm.
sniff. If we're anywhere near it, I think we're going to go again. That means that if Karl doesn't do it this season, see you in a bit. Thanks for the
Of
memories,
course,
but you're
yeah.
gone.
Absolutely, yeah. And that, like you say, that's and
So it's in
of
his hands now.
course it is. Like you say, it's similar to when I think when Neil Harris was at our club. Obviously, we had that half a season, 22, 23. You come to us in the December 2022, about 3 weeks before the takeover, absolutely ripped us apart, 3-0. Like,
Okay,
we just gave up after half time, if I remember rightly.
right.
We're unbeaten since then against you, I think, but we'll get to that later in the show. Um, but yeah, but then after the takeover, when we went January 1st, we went, right, we'll go and sign Tom Nichols for 65k because he's out of contract, higher up the league. We'll go and sign
Yeah.
Ollie Hawkins and Jules Lapsley from a team challenging in the playoffs in Mansfield. We'll go and pay Timmy Dieng's release clause out of Exeter, who are halfway up League One, and a couple of others. Then suddenly you haven't got that excuse anymore. You can't say, oh, I've not got the players to get me out of this. And it's similar. Slightly different was that it was easier for Neil Harris to go from 24th to 17th in
Yeah.
second half of a season where it's more difficult. It's always more difficult to make that jump from sort of 10th, 9th, 8th into the top six, the top three, winning the league. So I
Three's
understand
the
that.
aim. Top three is the
Yeah,
aim. I'm telling you,
absolutely. Yeah, I
Matt. It
guess
is.
it can't not be, can it, when you're paying over
No.
300,000 for strikers, similar
Yeah.
to teams like MK Dons who are spending ridiculous money. Top Certainly top seven. If you're not in there, then he's failed massively. I totally
Yeah.
get that, and I'd
Completely.
say it's similar for Gills. Like, I'm not sure how much we've spent on some players, but the caliber of people that you're bringing in when you sign a Sam Vokes for League Two, I know they're at the back end of their career, or a Gareth
Yeah.
McCleary, and them types of players, or Bradley Dack, you've got fit. You haven't got any excuses anymore. You've got to get it right, and it's great to see because the pressure means that you've got better players, and then it should mean that you watch a team that wins more football matches. But the
That's the
rewards are
hope.
higher, but the risks are higher as well. It's human nature.
They are. I almost feel like, and definitely this would not apply to you, but some people who contact me who've not paid much attention to Salford over the years, and the last time they heard of us were the Class of '92 takeover and the big money and spending our way through the leagues. They think that's been a continuous thing, and it's not because
Mhm.
Peter Lim left us a substantial amount of time ago, and between then we were penniless, really, as I've said. So, but we now seem to have. At one point we were saying academy, academy, academy. Let's bring the lads in. Well, you're probably going to go down if you play a load of academy lads in League Two. I think unless you've got absolute starlets, you're not going to be able to play a third to half of your team from the academy. It
No,
just
no.
doesn't work.
You've
It's
got
never
to
going to
have
work.
you've got to have half that I'd say that are, big, strong, robust players. And then if you can
Yeah,
sprinkle some stardust and some icing sugar, so to speak, another analogy, over the top,
yeah.
then you'll be all right. Yeah, I think it's a risk if you go too far the other way. Obviously, it has to happen for some teams, financial reasons. But again, Gillingham and Salford don't fall into that bracket at the moment.
But we bat all my point is on this, Matt, is just to say that for those people who took the right off the ball for that almost 18-month period where we were kind of penniless, they
Mhm.
will think we've always been trying to spend, 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 spend. Because we're back now. The money's
Mhm.
back. The whole show of it is back. We've got a new documentary that's now on. You might have seen Karl throwing things around the changing rooms,
Seen
and
snippets on YouTube. I've not
yeah,
watched it, I must
it's
admit. And
gone
I remember
viral.
watching the first one, the first ever Salford City
Yeah,
documentary when you was going through non-leagues, and there was your.
yeah, it was
I remember
great.
your star striker having to miss games because he was doing modelling assignments. Like it was
Gareth Seddon,
hilarious. That's
yeah.
the girl. He does a podcast now, doesn't he? I had trials once. Is
I
it?
had trials once, yeah, with Jordan, some or other. Yeah,
Do
Jordan Hugh,
remember? So
maybe.
yes, I remember the first one. I really enjoyed it. I must admit, because it was it the you had the was it the brothers that were in charge for a while? Were they brothers or were they best mates?
No, Anthony Johnson and what was his Bernard something or other.
That's
But yeah,
it.
they I think they knew each other. They were previous managers together in like teams like Ramsbottom, etc.
Yeah,
And then they've kind of stuck around that level. But they're now
yeah.
doing really well at Ramsbottom, I believe. No,
Yeah, I remember the
Ratcliffe even.
documentary. That's
Ratcliffe.
it.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, I do remember it. I remember watching it years ago, and then I think Sky got hold of it, and it was not available to the working class man.
And then the narrative became boring because we weren't doing anything. We were just, oh, it's now season 6 in EFL League Two. Well, there is no momentum there. So
No,
in that sense, it was kind of a bit of a sham that what who's going to watch that apart from people? We watched it as fans. We bloody love it.
of course,
But
yeah,
in terms of it being Welcome to Wrexham, where it's like bang 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 bang
yeah.
bang, there was none of that. So I think we had to kind of create our own to keep ourselves relevant.
That's it. There has to be, like you say, a big success story. I'm not going to call it a fairy tale because there's a lot of money
Yeah.
involved, and they're doing it well. And I've got no issue with Wrexham. Before, if anyone says anything against me, I'm not. If you've got money to spend, we'd all love it. We'd all love to have our football clubs
Yeah.
do that. Or you go the other way, and Sunderland, people watch Sunderland till I die because for 3 seasons it was just disaster after disaster, and we all like to watch the proverbial car crash in slow motion, don't we? Unless we're
Sometimes.
Sunderland fans, of course.
Yeah.
Home form this season, to change the subject, has been very solid. I think it's
Has
four.
it? Okay. Tell me.
It looks solid enough. Is it four
No, oh,
wins, a draw,
I
and
don't.
two defeats?
If you've got the stats there, Matt, honestly, because I know where we're heading and I know the trajectory, but in terms of home and away, I'm going with your stats.
Okay, well, not my stats. I've pinched them off the internet again. So
Yeah,
four
yeah.
wins, a draw, and two defeats from 7 games. So you're averaging pretty much two per game at home.
Oh,
But away from home, not as good.
no.
Currently, it's still 10th, not a disaster. But it's back to another analogy that we said at the top of the show: feast or famine. 3 wins
Yeah.
or three defeats. There's no middle ground. So it seems that when you get yourselves in front, you're okay. You can go and see games out, but there might be a problem in terms of chasing a game, getting back into fixtures. How much of a concern is that potentially heading to ME7 on Saturday afternoon to take on a dual side that have won 4 out of 6 at home?
The biggest underlying thing, although because even with the stats there, which make the case, it's still a
Mhm.
relatively small sample size at this time in the
Absolutely,
season. So
yeah.
I'm
But we
gonna
can
get
only
my
take
data
what we've
analytics hat.
got.
Yeah, oh
Go
yeah,
for it.
but
Go for
what
it.
I'm going to say is that I feel there's an underlying problem that Karl is constantly referring to, and
Okay.
it's something I actually agree with him about, and it's about ruthlessness in front of goal.
Yep.
It's about not against Bristol Rovers. When we lost, which I don't know how we lost that game because we dominated that first half against them like I have never seen.
Mhm.
Like I thought, this is my team. I cannot believe it. I was ecstatic, and we lost the game because we were up, and we just didn't. We just didn't kill them off. And that is something Callie's going on and on and on about. It actually makes me think that even though we've paid kind of a shed load of money, which I'm sure there's another shed load waiting to be spent on Dan Udo, that he's not deserving to be dropped, but he could be dropped because he's one who's as guilty as anybody for missing chances. Cissé's missed a lot of chances because he's getting into advanced areas a lot and he's not a natural forward. He's more of a running, energetic midfielder. So it's I like the fact that basically there's no sacred cows at all in this team now. Anybody could be dropped any time. And I do think, whether you want to talk about him now, our new 10-week contract signing could be someone who comes in, shows a bit of stardust, and maybe is able to really start finishing chances because it's something we desperately need, home or away.
Assume you're referring to. I'm not going to do an Italian accent. I want people
Good,
to
do
watch
it.
to the
Sure,
end.
sure.
Absolutely not. I'm sure you're talking about Fabio Borini, who has recently arrived on a free transfer, played 9 minutes, I think, last week against Oldham off the bench for a my.
Yeah.
in a week where there was a couple of very left field signings in terms of League Two, which is great. Like if we can attract players of that capabilities to the division, then it's better for everyone as football fans who watch the
Mm.
fourth tier. Um, I'm not asking you to talk about him in terms of his appearance because he played 9 minutes. You've not seen anything of him.
He was great though. I'll tell you that
It's a
now.
great 9 minutes.
Yeah, it was frigging fabulous. Yeah,
Um,
really good.
how surprising was that, first and foremost? And just, I suppose it's almost like a pinch me moment as a fan of Salford because, like you said, you had the money, then it all got taken away for that period of time. Now it's back and you're spending money and
Yeah,
you can attract players of that capability. But we have to remember, it's only like 5, 6 years ago, you were National League. Not too far before that, you were National League North. At that
mm,
time, Mr. Barini was probably playing in the Premier League or the Serie A. For someone like
definitely.
maybe Liverpool, Chelsea, Sunderland, Parma,
AC Milan. Yeah,
AC Milan. So that's my question: is how much of a pinch me moment is that signing? Because half a decade ago, you were universes apart, let alone worlds apart, and now all of a
yeah.
sudden, the magic of football means that he's pitched up and he's going to play for you for at least a few months.
Yeah, we've got a 10-week deal on him. So whether he's still actually got some level of under the radar contract with Sampdoria, because I think that's his last club. I'm not quite sure what the technicalities are on
Mhm.
that, but that was his last club. Whether he's still attached to them or not, I don't know. In terms of pinch me, I the last pinch me signing we had before this was Ben Woodburn. That's not worked out really. That's not that's
No?
he came in as like what one of Liverpool's youngest scorers, ex-world international. What he's just coming in from Championship. Oh, great! Then you start to hear what Preston fans said about him, and I thought, oh, maybe he's not that good. He's been about an average League Two player, and we expected a lot more for someone
Okay.
we're paying about nearly £5 a week for. So the pinch me on Fabio Barini is that the announcement of when he got brought in was just at the same time as one of our depth strikers, Jay Bird, who came in from Rochdale. He's got a long term injury. So I
Mhm.
thought, okay, we've brought Fabio in as a late game changer, possibly. But when I look at it now, apparently he's been training with us for a significant period of time, a few weeks, to get in, to get an understanding with the team, get a bit of chemistry. He's got business interests in the area
Okay.
around Salford. He owns a paddle club of all things. That sport that I don't know what it is, but probably wherever that fancy paddle is. He goes to the local gym. So he's not just been kind of jettisoned in from
Okay.
wherever he was playing last. He's kind of local in that sense. But just to go to that 9 minutes, there was a deftness to everything that he did that I have just haven't seen in League Two. It was even when he put a channel ball over the top, it wasn't just a channel ball, it wasn't a hit and hope. It was placed, it was measured, it was the right arc, it dropped in the right zone. So he didn't look rusty. Maybe there's a bit of underlying match fitness that needs to come. And if you look at the difference, Ben Woodburn, he was our pinch me maybe a year ago. The fact that we're now pinching ourselves for Barini, that shows that our level is in the stratosphere. So our whole the fact that we had players like Juna Luamba not so long ago playing regularly for us, and now I don't know what he's doing. Is it Carlisle possibly? I think he might be. We released him and said see you later because our whole squad around Junior improved and our recruitment got better and better and better. And Junior just stayed the same and he dropped off the bottom of it.
Mhm.
And that's kind of where we are now. That Barini and the like, even a fellow we've loaned from Uruguay, Nicolas Siri, who's I think from the Belgian league, he's only a depth striker, so I'm not quite sure how that loan's going to work for a player who needs game time. He was a Uruguay World Under 23 World Cup winner for them, so he's got potential. So there's a profile to what's going on at Salford that isn't probably that evident from the outside. But yeah, we've got a chief exec who's coming from Man City. He was at the City Group for years, massively high profile. So there's so much moving forward. Forget you can even put Cal to the side. The behind the scenes at Salford now is completely new churn. It feels really good to me, and I can be negative, as you know.
Negative. Maybe
Yeah, critical.
sometimes. Level-headed.
Critical. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you're excited, then it's fair to say
That's
that
what
it's
I'm saying.
exciting
Yeah,
times. Yeah, no, I
it
get
is.
that
Yeah.
entirely. And it's great to see. And that's why we get people like you on to tell us all about your clubs. Um, it's only been six competitive games between the two clubs in history. Um, four wins for Gills, a draw and a defeat. Like I say, that win came for you at Priestfield back in December of 2022 by 3 goals to 0. And at our place in particular, three games, two wins for Gills and one for Salford from not a lot in it, 4 goals each. Um, Final question. You know what it is
Hmm.
before we blow full time. Score
All right.
prediction. I know you don't like doing them.
I don't because I'm probably never right. So, but what I will say is this: is that Karl demands, according to what we see from this documentary and what he says post match, a minimum of 2 goals scored per game from us. That's what he wants. So I keep taking him at his word. We only scored one against Oldham, but we created quite a lot. So I'm going to
Mhm.
say we score two. Um, I don't think just because it's necessarily an away game that we will necessarily be negative. I think, as we showed against Bristol Rovers, we'll go and try and muller people. We'll
Mm.
try and run all over you because that's what our team is built up to do. It's athletic, if nothing else. And there's a lot of technique, as I said, who's been sprinkled over the top. So I'm going to say two to us. And I'd love us to carry on the winning run. I'm happy with Matty Young won't want to let a goal in if he's not on international duty, which I don't think he will be. So I'd like 2-0, but 2-1 I'm perfectly happy with. And I'm sure you'd be happy with scoring at least a goal, but not the defeat, I'm sure. What do you think?
Said 2-1 as well, but obviously mine's the other way
The other
round.
way
So of
around.
course it is. Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's a
Fair
team.
play.
I think it's a team where a game where both teams score. Looking at recent defensive records, I think we both only got one clean sheet in our last six.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're a bit behind schedule if it's two per game because you've only scored two in your last four. So I'm
I know.
hoping that you don't make up for it this weekend and
Cal's
average it out.
fuming. Yeah,
But no, I think we're playing too well, even after 4 games without a win, to not win the football match or get something from it. So I'm going to be optimistic and say that we pinch it by the odd goal. Yeah, similar to what you said against Bristol Rovers against Cheltenham. We come out of the blocks, we were flying. We could have been 3-0 up in 15 minutes, won it the post, keep made a couple of saves.
yeah,
And then you think you get to half time, Cheltenham are hanging on. You think it's all right. We're coming towards the rain. I mean, we've scored in every game bar one under Gareth Ainsworth or Richard Dobson as it is at the moment. And you get to 60 minutes, you still think, yeah, we'll be fine. And then Cheltenham score after 87 minutes when you've had 30 shots at goal.
yeah,
But we found a way to get something. So I think it has to turn. The two home performances where we've only picked up 1 point have been really dominant. So it'd be a great matchup if you're going to come and try and be open and on the front foot. It might help us. But obviously, equally, if you get it right, we could be under the cosh for large periods. So it makes for an interesting battle, which I'm really looking forward to. Danny, as always, been an absolute pleasure. These I might as well have just
same.
chucked in the bin because just talk, don't we? We talk football. It's brilliant. Gills
Yeah,
fans, Salford fans, if you are still watching at this point, or any neutrals, please go down there and follow Danny. Like I said, please press like. It'd be brilliant. I'm going to aim for 75 likes on this preview show. And if you're new around here and haven't done so yet, please press subscribe. We are trying to get to 4,000 subscribers as quick as possible. And I've already said before, once we get there, there will be a prize giveaway. So there's something in it for you as a thank you. But yeah, of course, we'll be back Saturday. Myself, Ava, Boz, and whoever else is about for a match day live at the Priestfield Stadium. But until then, I hope you have a good week. And of course, most importantly, up the Gills.